Marilyn Doobie here. What's the play for today? Well, today I'm going to be sharing some treasure with you. Yes, I'm going to be using treasure in my art journal page. Now, other people might call it trash, but it's treasure to me. Wait till you see what I have saved in this gallon Ziploc bag for not just, I don't know, a month, but try like a year or 2 years. But today is the day I'm going to use it or lose it. Now, along the way in this video, you're also going to see some very high quality rubber stamping. Not that high quality. It's going to be loaded with oopsies, as well as some painting. And you'll notice when I do the painting, there's a pink rectangle. And I don't like that pink rectangle from the get-go. But guess what? It was definitely an oops. One at the very end of this page, it was just the perfect thing that I needed to finish it up. So here's what I've been saving. Yes, I was saving this, a bag of scraps, which other people might call trash, but I thought it was treasure. But in here are little odds and ends, especially things from die cutting, perhaps a stenciled scrap from another project. I love that globe stencil on there. I mean, just really odds and ends here, but I've held on to them for way longer than I want to admit, so it is time to use it or lose it. So to get myself to use a bunch of it up quickly, because what I don't use up, I'm going to toss out of here, I am going to get that gel medium out, and you can see, oh, how carefully I'm doing it. I am just slathering it on there, and then I'm going to put my scraps of paper on here. These were gel prints that I had run through the die cutting machine to cut out circles, because if I want something to be actually perfectly round, it's not going to be hand cut by me. I'm also putting a layer of gel medium on top, not necessarily to seal it in or that kind of thing. It's more to just make sure there's glue everywhere so that when I put the next thing on top, it will completely adhere and stick down. Now, I do the use it or lose it thing to get me to actually use things that I've been holding on to as hoarded treasure, like this stuff, because, well, my studio was getting full of all sorts of stuff. Way more stuff than what I really needed in here, because I basically did a giant purge and was clearing stuff out. So if it was so amazing and awesome, then I needed to use it or I needed to get it out of here. Now, in this one video, I'm not going to use every single piece in there. I will tell you that at a different time, I used up a lot more of what was in there, but by the end of the day, the entire bag was not used up, so that means I had to get rid of some of it, and my inner hoarder was not happy at all about it. Another benefit to a studio purge is I start to find things that I haven't thought about or used in a long time, like some of my unmounted rubber stamps. That's what's in those envelopes in the shoebox right here. On the outside of the envelope is stamped what the images are, and then the stamps are kept in the envelope. A brilliant system, I thought. I just have to remember to actually use the things. Now, when I use an unmounted rubber stamp, what I do is have a clear plastic block here. I'm putting some double-sided tape on there, and basically that's how these unmounted stamps will stick to it. Now, you're probably wondering exactly who manufactured these stamps that I'm using. Well, frankly, so am I. I don't remember who did what, so if there's anybody that knows whose stamps these are, please let me know. I will definitely update the blog post that goes with this to give them full credit for the stamps that they've created. I just can't remember who it was. I'm also getting quite perplexed here. I cannot tell which way is right side up with these bingo numbers, so I had to do a little test there to figure it out. Apparently that was a lot more thinking than I was up to at the moment. Now, another thing that's kind of, well, common sense when rubber stamping is you need a flat surface to stamp on if you're going to do a larger stamp. And yeah, that's why there were some very imperfect stampings around here, because the art journal page and the other things that are under it, it's just not a very flat or smooth surface. So that's going to lead to some very imperfect stamping. And you're probably pretty aware that I'm okay with that, because nothing about this page is perfect. I mean, after all, this was what should have been trash by many standards that I thought was treasure, these scraps, that I've held on to for, if I told you that I had that stuff for a year or 2 years, that would probably be quite reasonable, or it might have even been longer than that. Again, it was time to use this stuff or get it out of here. And you might notice that I'm pushing down quite firmly on some of these, and the reason is because it's my attempt to kind of flatten everything out so that I can get a shot at getting a good impression. Now, it's not working out terribly well on larger stamps. On smaller ones, we're working okay, but the bigger ones, yeah, just can't make that happen. Now, the whole time that I'm stamping and using all this extra pressure to try and get a good impression, I can hear Mary Jo McGraw in my head. Now, if you're not familiar with Mary Jo, you should check out her stuff. She's an absolute riot. And one of the things that she would always make comments about is how hard everybody pushes down on their stamps when you really don't need to. Now, I don't know if I really needed to now, but it sure made me feel better or like I had a better chance at getting a good impression while I was stamping. And now I'm going to zoom in so you can really see this next stamping that I'm going to do, because I'm so excited to use this stamp. I'm loving the image of this woman. I know exactly where I want her to go on the page, and I have lost all rational or logical thought because I take this larger flat stamp and I'm going to push it down, and guess what kind of impression I'm going to get with that? Yeah, get ready to say oops, because yeah, you can barely tell that it's even her. No, I'm not going to give up on her. I really want her on there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab some scrap paper. It happens to be cheap copy paper. And I am simply going to stamp her on it. Now, I find this fascinating that on a flat surface, it is much easier to get a clear and clean impression. Yeah, I know. Shocking, isn't it? And now I know why I was so excited when I bought this stamp, is because I knew how easy it would be to cut out. And so I'm just going to do some very loose cutting around it, which actually for me, that's actually considered fussy cutting, but for anybody with precision, I know that's not fussy cutting to them. And since I had her out here, I'm thinking I may put more than one of her on here. I'm going to grab the rest of that scrap paper and I'm just going to stamp it a couple of times and cut them out. That way I've got them to use on the page if I want. And if I don't use them on the page, well, I'll just add them to a pile of treasure that I'm going to save. And hopefully I won't save it quite as long as I did my last bag of treasure. Well, now it's time to get a little color on here. I know you were thinking there's already a little bit. Well, I'm going to add a whole lot more to it. I'm going to be using the Deco Art Media fluid acrylics here, and I'm just going to be painting on color in different places. And I keep trying to figure out exactly where I'm going to put her on this page, because where I stamped her, that doesn't quite feel right anymore, but I definitely know that I want her on the page, or maybe all three of them. Because the one that's on the page right now looks like she's in disguise. She's got big 3D sunglasses on, kind of thing to go see a movie, and kind of an orange goatee going on. So yeah, I don't think I'm going to keep her. That's not really the vibe I'm looking for on this page with her. So I'm really glad that I've got some over there on the copy paper, because I really love her for this page for some reason, but not exactly where I stamped her. And I'm loving just about everything on this page so far, except for that sort of rectangular pinkish purple that's on top of her head. I really don't like that section of it. And there it sits, kind of staring at me, glaring at me, going, yeah, I'm here. What you gonna do with me? I don't know what I'm gonna do with it yet, but that pink right there is definitely an oops. An outstanding opportunity presenting suddenly. Don't know what the opportunity is yet, but there's definitely got to be an opportunity in it. Well, it's commitment time. I'm going to glue her down in that circle. I'd hoped she'd cover up a little bit more of that big pink rectangle, but she looked a little funny hanging off to the side, so I kept her right in the middle. And then some very delicate and precise circle tracing here with the Stabilo pencil. Yeah, clearly not that precise. I'm just not a precise kind of person. Well, I decided to have a little fun with those judgmental thoughts that come from having stuff piled up in my studio that I haven't gotten to yet. And she kind of has a little bit of that look on her face to me right now. So I am going to stencil on here first class guilt trip. And the whole phrase is actually first class guilt trip of a lifetime, but you don't have to use everything that's on a stencil. You can use bits and pieces. And what I'm going to do to mask off parts of this so that I only stencil the words that I want, I'm just going to take some Post-it notes. You can use something like a piece of not very sticky tape, you can use Post-it notes, or you can just hold a piece of paper there, or you can live on the edge and do it without any paper on it. And if you get a little paint here and there, you just call it an oops. I've got the stencil lined up right under her, and I've got some black paint there. I'm putting it on the sponge and I'm really dabbing it off because it's a fluid paint. And if I want crisp lines, I need to use a small amount of paint. So that's why I'm going to make sure I only have just a little bit on that cosmetic sponge. And then I'm going to go in an up and down motion. I'm not going to push very hard because I want a crisp line with this. Oh, and I forgot to mention this stencil is called Are We There Yet? And it's available over at StencilGirl Products. Well, now that I've poked a little fun at the guilt that I feel about the stuff that I haven't used or haven't made time to use, now it's also time to appreciate the play. And for that, I'm going to stencil the word journey, because this stuff does take me on a journey. It absolutely lets me playing with color and pattern and all that kind of stuff that I wouldn't be able to do otherwise. So the scraps that brought me a little bit of guilt along the way, they also took me on a fun journey of play as I made this page. And now at long last, I am going to deal with that pink rectangle that was bugging me from earlier in the video. It is the perfect place for me to do some scribble journaling and wrap up this page. Well, thanks so much for joining me for today's play. If you've enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. And of course, if you want to see more of my videos, hit that subscribe button so you'll know as soon as I have a new video out. Want more play? Head on over to the blog at acolorfuljourney.com, where I've got a free workshop, I've got a newsletter with a downloadable video and PDF waiting for you, as well as goodies that come in each and every newsletter. Thanks so much for letting me be a part of your colorful journey.